Good evening. All right. This is indeed Westerfield Tolbert, and this is a Mind of Valor. This is day 19, and day 19 has been a long one. If you have been joining us over the last couple of days in the series, we've been going over different topics relevant to the Mind of Valor platform and the 25 contiguous Valor principles. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, I had been traveling yesterday. I was in Michigan. I returned to Louisville this afternoon. It was a nice trip back. I'm glad I'm back home, and I will prepare to leave again to travel again this upcoming weekend. But nonetheless, um, yesterday we spoke about love, just to reiterate, and from yesterday's episode, just how love has the capacity to echo louder and go farther and go wider if we are living in a congruent way, in that it allows for our power to change spaces. And if we are nurturing and nurtured and creating loving, healthy environments, then we have a greater chance of changing the energy in those spaces. For today, I was going over the list of the 25, and we're getting closer to the end of our list, but we still have way more to go. Just to remind you of some of the things that we've been talking about. One is creating a life of asking better questions, asking more quality questions, and just asking the questions in general, and not letting the appearance of not knowing be something that stops you from acquiring new information and making an effort to build communities around places where you can learn and people can hold each other accountable around certain ideas and around the potential to grow in different ways. So, again, we're out here trying to ask better questions and develop systems and tools utilizing things such as mental models and first principles in general, things that we can live by, recognizing our vision, our attitude, our language, our internal and external language, how responsive we are to the environment that we live in, how we nurture our relationships, reciprocity, as well as how we orient ourselves to the environment that we're in, ambition in relation to that same theme, how all these things tie together so that we're out here asking better questions and creating safe spaces so tougher questions can be asked that are necessary to change systems and to change environments. One of the one of the principles on the 25 contiguous valid principles list is operation. And I decided to go with operation because and how it fits in with the other themes. Well, first, about a week or so ago, I had just a note came to mind, something that I didn't want to forget. So I put it on my dry erase board. It says categorize or implement. And at the time when I put that on my dry erase board, I was staring at a stack of Post-its on my table. And of that stack of Post-its, they were just like different ideas that I had captured throughout the day that were not relevant to the particular thing that I was studying at that time. So if I was reading from a book and then something within the text inspired me or it had me intrigued that I wanted to do some more research on something, or sometimes I would be just doing something else and I would be inspired with an idea or an invention. And so I would quickly grab a Post-it, I would sketch it out, outline and put a little note about what it is. And then I had them in random places around the house, primarily on the table. And so I was telling myself when I wrote that on the dry erase board, categorize or implement, meaning that the ideas that I had spread around on the table, for the ones that could be implemented into one of the projects that I'm working on, immediately go and put that in the file or under the tasks or to-do list for that particular area, and then figure out what accountability looks like around implementing that thing. And then for the ones that I was not going to implement at this particular time, or I didn't see how it could be fit into a bigger plan right now, then I need to categorize and file them way properly. So what does that categorization and filing way look like? For me, it comes in different ways. Like I categorize and file things way differently. So for example, if I'm doing a project and I'm using my, Trello, and I have a list going, I will create a card or create a list where I just flesh out all the ideas about what I want this thing to do and how I want it to be implemented, and just put it there safely so that at the right time, when it's in the queue, it could be implemented. For other things, like for example, some of the fiction material that I'm working on, I may have had an idea about a scene or just an engaging way that I saw dialogue happening. And so I'll write that out. I'll go over to my Google Drive. I'll type it out and tag it in the name as well under whatever that particular nonfiction or fiction or nonfiction piece that I'm working on. And then when I'm going back to work on a particular idea, I can just search that tag and the different objects or the different items that are relevant to that will pop up. That also works with pretty much any other word processing filing system, as well as I use Google Keep quite a bit and the Notepad on the Apple. So implement or categorize. Some of these, it's just one of those things where if you are constantly acquiring information or constantly acquiring tools and you're not putting them into play, they can become burdensome, they can become overwhelming, they can begin to take up space and become a distraction. So that's where I say categorize and file them away. Now, if they're already in a position to be used or implemented or recommended, then go ahead and implement it as quickly as possible in the best way that you know how, and then work on refining it once you initially have put it out there and tested it. So it's really the idea that you want to take these quality ideas and implement them faster to see if they actually work within your systems or they don't work within your systems. And so that's just something that like I said, I put it on my dry erase board, and it's a healthy reminder of how best to use the information coming in, and for things that can't be used right away, how best to compartmentalize them and periodically revisit them so you can see if it's the right time to implement or time to be refined, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, but for today's principle, I want to talk about operation. And for this, I will read the Merriam-Webster definition of operation, as well as frame it in the way that we use it in this conversation. So I will read off a few of the definitions under operation. So one of them, performance of a practical work or of something involving the practical application of principles or processes. I particularly like that definition, so I'm going to read it again. Performance of a practical work or of something involving the practical application of principles or processes. An exertion of power or influence. The quality or state of being functional or operative. Method or manner of functioning. Efficacy, potency, archaic except in legal usage. Okay. A procedure carried out on a living body with instruments, especially for the repair of damage or the restoration of health. Any of various mathematical or logical processes of or deriving one entity from others according to a rule. A military action, mission, or maneuver, including its planning and execution. A business transaction, especially when speculative. A single-step performance performed by a computer in the execution of a program. That said a lot. And I want to take us back to the first definition that I read under operation and why I appreciate it. Performance of a practical work or of something involving the practical application of principles or processes. I'm going to start taking notes in while recording, because sometimes as I'm saying something out loud, I have epiphanies. Principles and processes. Organization. Operation. How does this work together? What does this have to do with the other 25 contiguous principles? In a nutshell, the operation, as it's defined here, is how you get your systems and your processes to work together effectively. It's the application of principles or processes. These 25 contiguous VALOR principles operate together as a set of instructions or a set of principles that can be tied into processes to get us to the point of asking better questions and improving our knowledge acquisition process and improving how we engage and critically interrogate things that are uncomfortable, how we create safe spaces. These are all brought together because they operate at the same level of, I guess, expectation. So when these things are coming together, it's expected and it's anticipated that they will produce better outcomes on the other side, because together, when brought together, they are not taking away from any experience. They all add value to the experience. They all add weight to the systems to improve them. So if we go back to day 7, vision, having more clarity about what you're expecting and more clarity with regard to a vision or an idea you want to bring into fruition, that directly ties with the necessary relationships, day 14, that will be required to make that vision a reality. Day 13, responsiveness, when we talk about tying how quickly we can respond to the opportunities in our everyday life, how quickly we can attack those solutions that we see and that we're building? How quickly can we pivot when necessary to realign to the vision, right? How we orient ourselves and our systems and our processes to be the most successful as possible. The way we operate as an individual goes back to these notes, right, that I was talking about with the example of the post-its. They had all these great ideas on the table, on the wall, wherever they needed to temporarily cluster. So if I had a bunch of ideas in a particular cluster to maybe just a little corner of a wall with those particular post-its that were just around that surrounding that particular subject. But this is how our minds also work and our organizations often work. We have these little clusters of information and potential that, since we are not properly compartmentalizing them and or properly figuring out how to implement them into the bigger system or operation that we have going, they don't have the opportunity to really be as beneficial. They don't get a chance to take root. They don't um, they aren't brought into the sphere of influence enough to force a change or to refine other processes. The same way we talk about how love has the potential to change spaces because of the magnetic frequency that we emit that goes out above and below us. That's the same way ideas are, when they're not properly used, don't get the opportunity to be amplified or to become as effective as they can possibly be. But as we are thinking critically about how can I build in systems to make my operation function at a high level? Nowadays, a lot of our tech is moving towards AI. So one of the solutions could be, how can I utilize the available technology in my sphere of influence in my life to automate certain parts of my operation, to automate certain parts of my life, so that my systems can work together more effectively. So the processes that I have in place can also work together more effectively. Just so when I see these things in action, then I know how to improve them. I know how to refine them, right? I'm seeing and I'm believing. Therefore, I can ask better or more challenging questions about what escalating this looks like, what scaling looks like, what is the obvious next step in a process, or if I've hit a wall in the process, what do I need to do to pivot to make my operation more successful and to have a greater chance of success? Even when it comes down to the the biological definition that's in the dictionary, right? When it says a procedure carried out on a living body with instruments, especially for the repair of a damage or the restoration of health. Think about it in the same sense. What can you do to bring health back to your life and your processes? What steps can you take to examine and interrogate how you got to be in a certain position, how your workflow got to be in a certain position, or relationships, or your attitude, or how your language that you are refer to yourself, how that got to wherever it's at. You know, how did my operating system become to be the way that it is? How did the algorithm that I'm programming myself with every day? And when I say programming myself, I just want to channel a story that I told to the son of a friend of mine. And we were just sitting around, and I was trying to explain to him how he can get more out of his everyday experience. We were just talking about music generally, and it just it boiled down to me saying, like, look, everything that you put into your system, your through your music, through the books that you read, the relationships that you have, the settings that you put yourself in, the the energy that you digest, the food, etc., etc. It's like programming your subconscious mind in your body to a particular algorithm, right? The information comes in, and based on how we treat the information, the source, and the influence that it has over us, it's rewriting the algorithm so that when we look at life, when we look at experiences, when we're making different choices, we first have to break the cycle of this algorithm because we've already programmed ourselves to a certain point to manifest in a certain way. And we've programmed ourselves to um, output based on certain inputs in a certain way. So the only way to change that is to change the algorithm. You change the algorithm by changing how you program yourself, by changing how you entertain yourself, by changing the relationships that you have, the type of conversations that you have, the 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 type of things that you put in your environment to inspire you, the type of reciprocity that you're getting and giving around you within your communities, your values, your physiology. Day 17, we talked about physiology and mindset. So like how you're breathing, that affects your internal processes. All of these tie together to either amplify your righteousness and amplify the good qualities that you're trying to produce more of in the universe, or the opposite, and they become a weight and a challenge to the very things that we want to materialize and bring to fruition. So the practical application of principles or processes, that to me says, what systems are you putting together in your life to be successful right now and tomorrow and for the day after? Does that look like being in community with people that can hold you accountable to the objectives and the goals that you're setting? Does that mean hiring or retaining some type of coach to help guide you through certain changes? Does that mean setting different alarms or changing your environment to make it easier for you to do the things that will make you successful, and pulling out of your environment the very things that are moving you away from success and at the rate that you want to? Does that mean, like for me, the process that I put together was these 25 contiguous valor principles. So I can look at these and instantly know where I need to challenge myself in a particular area for a particular time and for in a particular time and space. I know that if my assumptions have led me to a certain place, then I have to start to think about, well, how are my relationships playing into this? How does the vision that I have around the expectation about what's going to happen playing into this? Outside of this present moment, what language do I sit with regard to this idea? Is that dialogue healthy? Is it not healthy? When this comes up for me, how am I breathing? How does my physiology change? How am I physically relating to this experience? These are all things that I question. We are we should question as we're building up systems and processes to be successful. Because at the end of the day, only we can answer some of these majority of these questions, only we can answer for ourselves, because it's based off our experiences. It's based off what we have chosen to learn and bring into our algorithm. It's just based off what we have decided to commit to memory in different areas of our lives. You know, what we're holding in our brains, our mind's RAM, that easily boots up when we experience certain stimuli within our environment. We have to be willing to go the extra step in developing a healthy way of operating in in our lives, among our colleagues, among our family, our friends, mm, and even operating in the world where people don't share the same opinions as we do, where people disagree with us. That conflict of opinion, we have to learn how to both operate in that space, not be, not feel antagonized, but still amplify love in those spaces, right? In the spaces that we feel most challenged, how can we articulate the greatest degree of love for that environment and for the things, the very things that are challenging us to rise to the occasion? How are we operating on a higher level to produce the best possible results? What are we committing to? What are we committing to memory that in the moments where we are discouraged, we can easily reach back and pull a little extra, muster something up based on what we've chosen to commit to memory as the things that are our vice, that are valuable to us and our values, and the vices that we're moving away from, the things that we feel make us ambitious, right? How we've oriented ourselves to the systems and processes, and in particular, how we've oriented ourselves to the idea of being organized and systematic and strategic about our lives and intentional about our lives, right? These are things that we don't get to unless we are asking ourselves these questions. We're not limiting the experience to just whatever the world throws at me. I'm being proactive. I'm asking myself questions. I'm seeking out guidance. I'm seeking out mentors. I'm doing research. I'm doing the due diligence to make sure that the decision that I'm making is the most conscious and well-informed decision, or that the decision that I'm making it from the best possible place with the understanding that there are gaps there are gaps in my knowledge. And so, though I may make the best possible decision, if new information comes along that's more relevant and more accurate, I'm able to pivot. I'm able to reorient myself to those experiences and adjust so that I can then, with the new information, produce the best possible outcome, or update my systems and my processes, or update my algorithm, or update my operating system, right? How I've programmed myself to engage and respond to external and internal stimuli. I can adjust my physiology to account for different things in the environment because I've asked myself a question or two that are relevant ahead of time so that going in, I'm prepared. And these are the things that we are um, obligated to go through with ourselves, right? Not leave them to chance, and then not leave them up to just something else or someone else, or not leave them, don't leave them just up to triggers, you know. Just don't be run and governed by just any old stimuli in the environment, that we lose our power in that way, and we lose our ability to be effective if everything has an effect on us without regard for um, how to control those elements. Things to think about in, as we go through this journey, as we build up our systems and processes to build community among ourselves, and also to strengthen the community outside of our interactions. Let's continue to grow, learn, and teach, and find ways to improve our processes, improve our the way we orient ourselves to the principles that govern our lives and to our values, and to be striving to repair those very things about ourselves that we have chosen to conceal in our blind spots or ignore for the sake of convenience or because it just hurts to go down that road. I urge you to push forward, push through, and as you go into the week, just consider the blessings that are around you, your capacity to change spaces by operating in love at a high level. I encourage you to seek righteousness whenever possible and to be willing to sacrifice for the very things that you want and that you feel that you deserve. Uh, Discipline and consistency will definitely go a long way. And as you're committed to yourself, the universe will constantly be rededicating and recommitting itself to you. I'll leave on that note. It's day 19, but we bled into the morning of the 20th. Tomorrow's my birthday, actually, May 21st. Happy birthday to me. I will still go live on tomorrow's date. But until then, let's ask better questions. My name is Westerfield Tolbert for A Mind of Valor. And let's continue to build community. Cheers.